The first time they rammed our ranch fence, a 2x4 exploded like shrapnel and sliced my grandpa's shoulder. A guy in a fake HOA enforcement uniform laughed, tossed a printed invoice into the dirt and said, "Pay your balance, or we'll be back." And standing there with my phone shaking in my hand, I realized this wasn't an annoying neighborhood feud, this was organized. Intimidation with a clipboard. I'm Emma Reed and I live with my grandpa Frank on a small ranch outside town, county. Land no gates with codes, no manicured entry signs, no homeowners association telling you what color your mailbox should be. It's gravel roads, old wood fencing, wind through the trees, and the kind of quiet you don't appreciate until somebody shows up trying to steal it from you. The first time they came, it was barely past sunrise. I heard a car horn, long angry, and then a knock that wasn't a knock. It was a punch against our gate. I walked out with a coffee I hadn't even tasted yet, and there he was. A man in navy clothes with a shiny badge that looked like it came from a costume shop. He didn't introduce himself like a normal person, he just barked, "Property inspection. HOA violations." Grandpa Frank stepped onto the porch behind me, slow and steady, like he'd been doing it the same way for 50 years. He looked at the guy, then at the SUV behind him with a cheap decal on the door, HOA enforcement, and said, "Son, there's no homeowners association here." The guy didn't blink. He held up a clipboard like it was a weapon. "Your property is in a compliance zone. Tall grass, unsafe fencing, immediate fines." I remember thinking, compliance zone? That's not a thing. Not out here. I tried to keep it polite at first, because that's what you do when you're not sure if you're talking to a real official or just an idiot with confidence. "I think you've got the wrong address," I said. "This is county land." He smirked like I'd told him a joke. Then he slid a paper under the gate and walked back to his SUV like he'd just served us court papers. The paper said we owed $1,500 for high grass unapproved fencing and my favorite failure to cooperate with authorized inspection. Grandpa Frank read it twice, then handed it back to me like it smelled bad. Authorized by who, he asked. Over the next week, they came back 3 more times. Different faces, same tone, like they were training off the same script. One guy shined a flashlight around our fence at midnight like he was searching for buried treasure. Another one dropped a second notice into the mud and made sure the camera on his chest was facing my face. The fees climbed fast. $1,500, then $2 to $1,000, then $2,750 with late penalties, even though we hadn't paid a cent, because why would we pay a made-up bill from people who didn't even belong on our road? I started recording. Every visit, every license plate, every time they touched the gate. I made a folder on my phone called Evidence, like I was already living in a courtroom. I didn't know what I was building yet. I just knew my gut was screaming, "Don't let this stay invisible." On day 15, the real problem arrived in heels. A woman stepped out of the lead SUV like she was walking onto a reality show set. Blonde hair, perfect sunglasses, expensive pink suit, sharp enough to cut. She didn't walk up to the gate. She waited for us to come to her like we were employees. "I'm Lydia Hart," she said loud enough for her little crew to hear. "President of Meadowbrook Estates, HOA." Grandpa Frank didn't even pretend to be impressed. "Meadowbrook is 10 miles from here." Lydia smiled like he was cute. "We've expanded. Greater Meadowbrook Initiative. This area now falls under our jurisdiction." I felt my jaw tighten. It wasn't just the lie, it was how easily she said it like she'd been practicing in front of a mirror. I held up my phone, pointed at her, and said, "Then show me the county filing. Show me the boundary map. Show me anything." She leaned forward a little, just enough for me to smell her perfume through the morning air. "You can ask for paperwork after you pay your outstanding balance," she said. $2,000 today, or you're going to learn what happens when people don't cooperate." That's when Grandpa Frank's voice dropped low. "We're done talking," he said. "Get off my property." Lydia didn't leave. She just lifted her chin and nodded at the SUVs like she was giving a stage cue. And for the first time I felt something cold settle in my stomach, because these weren't HOA busybodies trying to be annoying. These were people testing how far they could go. They proved it 2 nights later. It was dark, windy, and way too quiet until the engine noise hit heavy and fast, like a truck flooring it on gravel. I ran to the window and saw headlights aimed straight at our fence. Before I could even open the door, boom, wood snapped. Posts cracked. The whole front section of our fence exploded inward like somebody had kicked it down with a battering ram. Grandpa Frank came out right behind me, and the moment he stepped into the yard, another SUV reversed and slammed again. A piece of wood flew up and caught him across the shoulder hard enough that he staggered. I yelled his name, grabbed his arm, and felt my chest go tight when I saw the blood. One of the guys climbed out of the SUV laughing like it was a prank video. He tossed a paper toward us. "Your bill," he said. I snatched it out of the dirt with shaking hands. "Fence removal service, $3,900. Like they'd just billed us for destroying our own property. I dialed 911 with my thumb already numb. When the dispatcher answered, I blurted it out. Vehicles vandalism. My grandpa bleeding people pretending to be HOA enforcement. There was a pause. Then the words I didn't want. "Ma'am, this may be a civil dispute. If no one is actively threatening you with a weapon," I snapped. "They just used an SUV like a battering ram." Another pause, and then an officer can take a report later. If they return call again. I stared at my phone like it had betrayed me. Because that's the thing nobody tells you. Sometimes help doesn't show up the way you expect, especially when the situation looks weird on paper. We patched Grandpa Frank up at the kitchen table. He sat there with his teeth clenched, refusing to let me see how much it hurt, and I could feel my anger mixing with something else. Doubt. Not the dramatic kind, just the ugly practical kind, the kind that whispers, what if you're wrong? What if they can make this worse? What if paying is cheaper than fighting? I hated that thought. But it was there because fear is sneaky. Like that fear doesn't announce itself, it just starts offering solutions. I went outside alone and stared at the wrecked fence at the tire tracks carved into our dirt like a signature. And for a second I thought, maybe we should just sell. Maybe we should just leave. Then a truck pulled up. Bill Turner, our neighbor, a contractor who actually builds things for a living, stepped out and took one look at the tracks. He crouched down, ran his fingers through the dirt, and said, "This isn't random. They lined up for a clean hit. They've done this before." He looked at me. "You got footage?" I nodded. "Good," he said. "Because I've heard about them. Not here, other areas. People paying fines just to make them go away." The next morning we did what Lydia thought we'd never do. We went to the county. I walked into the county records office with my phone full of videos and a stack of printed invoices like evidence from a bad prank. The clerk pulled up our parcel, confirmed it in 10 seconds. "No HOA attached," she said. "No recorded covenants, no annexation, nothing." Grandpa Frank leaned in and asked, "And Meadowbrook Estates?" She nodded. "Real subdivision, real homeowners association." Then she turned the screen and pointed. "But their boundaries are filed. And they don't touch you, not even close." It was validating and infuriating at the same time, because it meant Lydia wasn't confused, she was counting on us not knowing where to check. Bill introduced us to someone else. Dana Wilson, a county commissioner who'd apparently been hearing rumors for weeks. She didn't come in with flashy promises, she came in with the tone of a person who's tired of liars. "Send me your videos," Dana said. "Every single one. Plates, faces, everything." Then she looked at Grandpa Frank's bandage and her jaw tightened. If they're impersonating authority and damaging property, this stops being civil. That word "stops" hit me like oxygen. Because finally, it sounded like someone was about to treat this as what it was. We set a plan, and it wasn't some movie nonsense. It was paperwork timing and making sure the next move was undeniable. Bill brought licensed workers. He rebuilt the fence with reinforced steel rail behind the wood, clean legal posted with signs, "Reinforced barrier, you are being recorded." We mounted cameras in places you couldn't miss. We logged everything. Dates, times, copies of county records proving no homeowners association had jurisdiction here. And then we waited. Saturday morning, just after 9, I heard it again. Engines on gravel, multiple vehicles, coming fast like they owned the road. 3 SUVs rolled up decals screaming HOA enforcement, and Lydia Hart stepped out like she was walking into court she'd already bribed. She didn't even pretend this time. She raised a megaphone and shouted, "Remove the illegal fortification immediately. You are obstructing authorized action." I walked up to the gate with my phone held steady even though my heart was going insane. "Authorized by who?" I called back. "Show me the county filing, Lydia. You keep forgetting that part." Lydia's smile snapped into something sharp. She turned to the driver of the lead SUV and said clear as day, hit it. For a split second I thought, no way. No one is stupid enough to do this on camera with signs after already injuring an old man. Then the SUV surged forward. The tires screamed, the engine roared, and the front end slammed into the fence hard. Except this time the fence didn't fold, it didn't explode inward, it held. Metal groaned under the impact like a warning. The SUV's hood crumpled, a burst of steam hissed out like it was exhaling shock. The second SUV tried to follow like they were committed to the lie and clipped the reinforced rail at an angle. The whole vehicle jolted sideways and stopped dead, and I watched Lydia stumble back, her megaphone dropping into the dirt. She screamed, "Do it again," like volume could change physics. That's when the sirens started. Real sirens. Not the fake authority tone, actual county sheriff units rolling in lights, flashing dust kicking up behind them. Dana Wilson's car came right with them. Deputies stepped out fast, hands firm, voices clear. Everybody away from the vehicles, hands where we can see them. Lydia spun toward them like she was about to charm her way out. "I'm the president of Meadowbrook Estates HOA. These people are violating." A deputy cut her off, calm and deadly serious. "Ma'am, you are being detained for impersonating authority, attempted extortion, and criminal property damage." Lydia blinked like her brain couldn't process the sentence. "That's ridiculous," she snapped. "They owe fines." Donna stepped forward and held up a folder. "Your HOA boundaries don't touch this parcel," she said, "and we've got multiple victims, multiple videos, and your order to ram a fence on tape." Lydia's face went pale, then red, then something ugly in between. She opened her mouth again, then the deputy turned her around. The handcuffs clicked once, sharp and final. And as Lydia Hart stood there staring at the dirt like it had personally betrayed her, I felt my whole body release a tension I didn't realize I'd been carrying for weeks. Not relief like a celebration, just the quiet, steady feeling of watching a bully finally meet a wall they can't talk their way through. Because the truth is, a homeowners association only has power when people believe it does. Lesson: don't pay fear, document it, verify it, and make it face the law.